The emergence. The quantum sensors aboard the Galactic Council vessel Starweaver registered the anomaly before anyone saw it. Captain Vexera, her crystalline form shimmering under the bridge lights, watched as the void before them began to twist. Space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a spiral of impossible mathematics that made the ship's eyes stutter in confusion. Multiple violations of known physics detected, announced First Officer Call, his feathered crest rising in alarm. Energy readings are, Captain, these can't be right. They're orders of magnitude beyond anything in our database. The anomaly grew, its edges crackling with blue-white energy that seemed to drink in the starlight around it. The Starweaver's crew, representing 6 different species from across the Council worlds, watched in stunned silence as something massive began to emerge. First came the bow, sleek, dark, and bearing markings in a language that hadn't been seen in Council space for 3 decades. The vessel that followed was unlike anything in the modern galaxy. Nearly 2 kilometers of angular hull plates and weapon systems that made the Starweaver's armament look like children's toys. Its surface bore the scars of ancient battles, yet it moved with the deadly grace of a predator awakening from slumber. "Impossible," whispered Vexera, her crystalline body resonating with shock. That's human engineering. The humans, the species that had appeared on the galactic stage barely a century ago, proved themselves to be simultaneously brilliant and terrifying, and then largely retreated to their own space after the machine war. They maintained diplomatic relations with the Council, but their most advanced technology, especially their warships, had become the stuff of legend. "Captain," Katal's voice cracked with urgency, "they're powering up their systems. Energy readings suggest their weapons could vaporize us before our shields even register the attack." Vexera's command training took over. Open all frequencies, first contact protocols, and notify Council Command immediately. Before they could transmit, their communications officer called out, "Incoming transmission, Captain. It's using old encryption protocols. Pre-isolation war standards." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the human face. The bridge crew collectively held their breath. The woman wore a dark uniform bearing insignia that belonged in a museum. Her eyes held the weight of command and something else, confusion. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the HSS, Defiant to unidentified vessel. We are experiencing temporal displacement issues. Please identify yourself and provide current stardate." Vexera felt her crystalline matrix vibrate with shock. The HSS Defiant. Every Council cadet knew that name. The ship that disappeared during humanity's classified Project Threshold jump test 30 years ago. The vessel that had been designed to push the boundaries of human understanding of spacetime itself. "This is Captain Vexera of the Galactic Council vessel Starweaver. Captain Chen, according to our records, you and your ship vanished in 2194. The current year is 2224. The human captain's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "I see," she said quietly. "Then we have a situation. Captain Vexera, I need to speak with the Council immediately. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about the threats facing our galaxy." "What do you mean, Captain Chen?" "During our jump test, we didn't just travel through space. We saw something out there, in the spaces between spaces. Something that's been watching our galaxy, waiting. And now, 30 years later," she paused, her face grim, "we might be the only ones who know how to stop it." As if in response to her words, the Defiant's hull seemed to pulse with barely contained power. Its weapon systems, decades ahead of their time, even by human standards, hummed to life. But it wasn't a threat display. It was a demonstration of readiness for whatever nightmare the ship and its crew had discovered in the void. The quantum sensors that had first detected the Defiant's arrival now began picking up new anomalies, far at the edges of known space. Whatever humanity's lost ship had fled from, it seemed their emergence back into normal space had started a countdown. The question was, to what? Vexera straightened her crystalline form. Security protocols dictate that we escort you to the nearest council facility for debriefing. Captain Chen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. With respect, Captain, we don't have time for protocols. Check your long-range sensors. Focus on the quantum variances at the galaxy's edge. What you're about to detect will convince the Council that humanity's paranoid research into advanced weapons technology was justified all along. As Vexera gave the order to scan, she realized that the galaxy's comfortable assumptions about its place in the universe were about to be shattered. The humans had been preparing for something all along, and now their most advanced warship had returned just in time to reveal what that something was. The Defiant hung in space like a dark promise, a glimpse of humanity's true technological capabilities, and perhaps the galaxy's only hope against whatever lurked in the void between realities. The next few hours would determine whether Captain Chen's warning would be heeded in time, or if the galaxy species would learn too late why humanity had been preparing for war all along. Legacy of the Lost. The Council's emergency chamber hadn't seen this level of activity since the Machine War. Representatives from 17 species filled the vast circular hall, their voices creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and translated speech. At the center stood Captain Chen, still in her 30-year-old uniform, facing the assembled leaders of known space. High Counselor Zexal, his bioluminescent tentacles pulsing with agitation, raised all four hands for silence. Captain Chen, you claim that during your ship's temporal displacement, you encountered something that threatens all sentient life. Yet you offer no proof beyond anomalous sensor readings. Chen's response was measured, practiced. She'd spent the 12-hour journey to the Council station preparing for this moment. With respect, Counselor, the proof is in the data we've already shared. The quantum disturbances we're detecting match exactly what we encountered in the void. But perhaps a more practical demonstration is in order. She nodded to her science officer, Dr. Elena Santos, who stepped forward with a holographic projector. The device, ancient by current standards yet somehow more advanced, hummed to life. Above the Council floor, a three-dimensional map of the galaxy materialized with clarity that made current holographic technology look primitive. During our displacement, Santos began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the presentation. We observed these entities moving through what we call the void space. They exist in dimensions our science barely comprehends, but their effects on our reality are measurable. She gestured, and red points of light appeared at the galaxy's edge, pulsing ominously. We call them harbingers, Chen continued. They're not just aliens, they're architects of extinction. They seed galaxies with life, wait millions of years, then harvest entire civilizations for purposes we still don't fully understand. And according to our calculations, they've just noticed that our galaxy's civilizations have reached the technological threshold they've been waiting for. The chamber erupted in chaos. A Vexerian representative's crystalline form vibrated so intensely it nearly shattered. The Meridian delegation's neural networks pulsed with distress patterns visible through their transparent craniums. If what you say is true, High Counselor Zexal's voice cut through the noise. Why did humanity's leadership push for isolation after the Machine War? Why build weapons in secret instead of warning us? Chen's expression hardened. Because we knew you wouldn't believe us without proof. The Harbingers don't just destroy civilizations. They manipulate them, testing them, watching their development. The Machine War. We have reason to believe they engineered it, pushing both organic and artificial life to evolve through conflict. The hologram shifted, showing the AS Defiance encounters in the void. The images were disturbing. Massive structures that seemed to fold through dimensions, beings that existed as both energy and matter, and technology that made even the most advanced council ships look like stone tools. The Defiant wasn't just a test ship, Chen revealed. It was the prototype for humanity's answer to the Harbinger threat. Our quantum fold drive doesn't just bend space. It allows us to operate on the same dimensional level as them. But we never got to complete the research, until now. Dr. Santos stepped forward again. The 30 years we missed. They gave us something invaluable. Perspective. We can see the patterns now, the way the Harbingers have been manipulating galactic development. And more importantly, we can see their weaknesses. A new delegate spoke up, a human, Ambassador Clark, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. Captain Chen, while your return is miraculous, you must understand how this sounds. You're asking us to believe that humanity's isolation, our seemingly paranoid military buildup, was all in preparation for a threat that might not even. He was cut off by a sudden blaring of alarms. The holographic display flickered, then showed real-time sensor data from the galaxy's edge. The red points of light were moving, and space itself seemed to be warping around them. That, Chen said quietly, is what a Harbinger scout ship looks like when it enters our dimension. In our original timeline, this was the moment they began their harvest. But this time, we're ready. This time, we have the Defiant. The council chamber fell silent as they watched the impossible shapes move through space, defying known physics. The Harbinger vessel, if it could be called that, seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, its form hurting the eyes of those who tried to focus on it too long. We have 6 months, Chen announced to the stunned silence. That's how long it took them to begin full-scale invasion in our timeline. The Defiant carries the plans for upgrading your ships with our quantum-fold technology, but it will take everything we have, every species, every ship, every resource, to have a fighting chance. High Counselor Zexol's tentacles had stopped their agitated movement, now hanging still with the weight of the moment. And if we refuse to believe you, if we decide this is some human deception, Chen's reply was cold as space itself. Then in 6 months, you'll believe us anyway, but by then, it will be too late. The choice is yours, Counselor. Humanity has spent 3 decades preparing for this fight. We've hidden our true capabilities, developed weapons that frightened even us, all because we knew this day was coming. Now we're offering you the chance to survive what comes next. The chamber's lights seemed to dim as the hologram showed more Harbinger ships emerging from void space. The galaxy's leadership faced a choice. Trust the humans who had seemingly abandoned them decades ago, or face extinction at the hands of beings that treated entire civilizations like laboratory specimens. The countdown to either salvation or annihilation had begun. The coming storm. 2 months after the Defiant's return, the Centauri shipyards had transformed into something unprecedented. Massive construction arrays stretched for kilometers, their skeletal frameworks housing vessels from a dozen species. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians, retrofitting ships with quantum-fold technology that had been classified for 3 decades. Captain Chen stood at the observation deck of the Defiant, watching as another Council battlecruiser received its upgrades. The vessel's sleek hull now bore the distinctive geometric patterns of human quantum field generators. Below, Dr. Santos was conducting a briefing with a mixed group of human and alien scientists. The quantum fold drive isn't just about movement through space, Santos explained, her holographic displays showing complex mathematical models. It's about existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The Harbingers can't target what they can't dimensionally lock onto. A meridian scientist, their neural pathways glowing with intense thought patterns, raised an appendage. But the power requirements, even our most advanced reactors can't. Which is why we're not using conventional reactors, interrupted Commander James Rodriguez, the Defiant's chief engineer. He gestured to a pulsing core being installed in a nearby vessel. These are quantum cascade reactors. They don't just generate power, they draw energy from parallel probability states. The shipyard's warning klaxons suddenly blared to life. Chen's command interface lit up with urgent notifications. Multiple void space ruptures detected at the edge of the system, reported the Defiant's AI. Signature match. Harbinger scout vessels. Earlier than expected, Chen muttered. They're adapting to our presence. She opened a channel to the shipyard's command center. This is Captain Chen. Implementation Protocol Alpha. All ships with completed quantum fold upgrades form up on the Defiant. This is not a drill. The response was immediate. 5 Council battlecruisers, their new quantum field generators humming to life, moved into formation alongside the Defiant. Their crews were a mix of veterans and hastily trained officers, all having spent the last 2 months drilling for this moment. Multiple hostile contacts emerging, announced Kittel, now serving as liaison officer aboard the Defiant. Configuration unknown. They're shifting between different physical states. The Harbinger scouts appeared as writhing masses of geometry that hurt the mind to look at directly. They moved with impossible grace, space itself seeming to bend around them. Traditional sensors struggled to maintain lock, their readings fluctuating wildly. All ships, activate quantum field generators, Chen ordered. Sync to Defiance frequency. Remember your training. Exist between the moments. Don't try to track them in normal space. The human-modified fleet shimmered as their quantum fields engage. To an outside observer, the ships would appear to blur, existing in multiple states simultaneously. It was humanity's answer to the Harbinger's dimensional superiority. The Harbinger scouts appeared as writhing masses of geometry that hurt the mind to look at directly. They moved with impossible grace, space itself seeming to bend around them. Traditional sensors struggled to maintain lock, their readings fluctuating wildly. All ships, activate quantum field generators, Chen ordered. Synced to Defiance frequency. Remember your training. Exist between the moments. Don't try to track them in normal space. The human-modified fleet shimmered as their quantum fields engage. To an outside observer, the ships would appear to blur, existing in multiple states simultaneously. It was humanity's answer to the Harbinger's dimensional superiority. The first Harbinger vessel attacked, launching what appeared to be a beam of concentrated probability collapse. A council ship caught in its path would have been erased from existence. Instead, the quantum field caused the beam to pass through multiple potential states, dissipating its effect. Return fire, Chen commanded. Pattern Alpha 7. The combined fleet fired, their weapons enhanced by quantum field technology. The shots existed in multiple states until impact, making them nearly impossible to evade. 2 Harbinger scouts took direct hits, their impossible geometries shattering across dimensional barriers. But the victory was short-lived. More ruptures appeared in space as the Harbingers called for reinforcement. They're adapting, Santos reported from her station. Changing their dimensional frequency. Our quantum fields need tow. She was cut off as a new type of Harbinger vessel emerged. Larger, more complex, its very presence causing localized reality fluctuations. The quantum field indicators across the fleet began to flicker as the massive entity exerted its influence. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, Chen ordered. Begin quantum field modulation sequence. Don't let them lock you into a single dimensional state. The battle that followed would rewrite military doctrine across known space. Ships phased between dimensions, weapons fire existed in quantum superposition until observation collapsed their states, and space itself became a fluid medium of possibility. The Defiant led the defense, its more advanced systems allowing it to predict and counter the Harbinger's attacks. But even with humanity's secret technology, they were barely holding their own against this advanced force. The true invasion fleet would be insurmountable without a major breakthrough. As the battle reached its apex, Dr. Santos made a discovery that would change everything. "Captain," she called out, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "I'm detecting a pattern in their dimensional shifts. They're not random. They're communicating. And if we can decode it, we can predict their movements." Chen finished. "Get me a firing solution based on that pattern. All ships, prepare to concentrate fire on my mark." The combined fleet's quantum fields synchronized, their weapons charged, and for a brief moment, humanity and its former adversaries fought as one against the harvesters of civilizations. The Harbinger vessels, caught in a web of predicted dimensional shifts, found themselves unable to avoid the coordinated assault. When the quantum distortions cleared, the remaining Harbinger scouts fled back to void space, leaving behind debris that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The shipyards were safe, but the cost had been high. 2 Council ships had been lost, their quantum fields overwhelmed by the enemy's attacks. As damage reports flooded in, Chen stared at the tactical display showing the Harbinger forces retreating. "Send all battle data to the analysis team," she ordered. "We just learned more about fighting them in one engagement than we did in 30 years of preparation. But we're going to need every scrap of that knowledge." Because at the edge of their sensors, more void space ruptures were appearing. The scouts had been just the beginning. The storm was coming, and they had only weeks to prepare for the full might of a civilization that had spent millions of years perfecting the art of harvesting entire galaxies. The real war was about to begin. Trial by fire. The war room aboard Centauri Station hummed with activity as holographic displays showed the approaching Harbinger fleet. Thousands of ships, each one a twisted mockery of natural geometry, pushed through the dimensional barrier between void space and normal reality. They left trails of quantum distortion in their wake, like wounds in the fabric of space-time itself. Captain Chen stood before the assembled fleet commanders, her uniform bearing the newly created insignia of the Combined Defense Force. "The Harbingers have accelerated their timeline," she announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Their main invasion fleet will reach populated space in 72 hours. The tactical display shifted, showing the positions of the defending forces. Nearly 800 ships had been upgraded with quantum fold technology, but thousands more remained vulnerable to the Harbinger's dimensional attacks. Time had run out before they could protect everyone. Commander Rodriguez stepped forward, his hands moving through the holographic interface. "We've implemented the insights from our first engagement. Each ship's quantum field can now dynamically adjust to counter their dimensional shifting. But we're still significantly outnumbered." "Numbers aren't everything," interrupted Kittel, now wearing the rank of fleet commander. The feathered alien gestured to a secondary display showing weapon configurations. "The Meridian Collective has adapted their neural network technology to enhance our quantum field synchronization. We can coordinate our ships with unprecedented precision." Dr. Santos, who had barely slept in weeks, brought up a new set of readings. "We've also decoded more of their communication patterns. The Harbingers don't just shift dimensions. They use dimensional frequencies as a form of faster-than-light communication. If we can disrupt those frequencies, we can blind them," Chen finished. "Cut off their ability to coordinate their harvest." She turned to the assembled commanders. "But to do that, we need to get close to their command ships. Really close." High Commander Zexol's tentacles writhed with concern. "The casualty projections for such an approach are better than the 100% casualty rate if we do nothing," Chen cut in. "The Harbingers don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. Every civilization they've harvested has been systematically erased from existence, their very quantum states scattered across dimensions." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a war for territory or resources. It was a fight for the very right of existence itself. "The Defiant will lead the assault," Chen continued. "We've modified our quantum core to emit a cascading dimensional disruption field. If we can get close enough to their command ships, we can create a ripple effect through their entire command and control network." The next hours were a blur of preparation. Ships moved into position, crews ran final systems checks, and across the combined fleet, beings of all species prepared to face an enemy that had successfully harvested countless galaxies before. The first sign of battle came as reality itself seemed to shudder. The Harbinger fleet emerged from void space like a tide of twisted mathematics, their ships moving in patterns that defied conventional physics. The combined fleet's sensors struggled to maintain lock, even with their quantum field enhancement. "All ships, execute formation delta," Chen commanded from the Defiance bridge. "Remember your training. Don't try to track them in normal space. Feel the dimensional currents. The battle erupted across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. Traditional energy weapons were joined by beams that erased their targets from probability itself. Ships phased between dimensions, trying to find angles of attack that existed outside normal spacetime. The Defiant led a squadron of the most advanced ships directly toward the heart of the Harbinger fleet. Their quantum fields synchronized, creating a bubble of stable spacetime around them, as reality twisted and warped under the Harbinger's assault. Multiple dimensional incursions reported the Defiant's eye. They're trying to force us into a single state. Maintain field integrity, Chen ordered. Dr. Santos, begin the disruption sequence. The Defiant's quantum core pulsed with energy as it began broadcasting on the frequencies they decoded. The effect was immediate. Nearby Harbinger ships began to lose their dimensional cohesion, their perfect coordination faltering. But the enemy adapted quickly. A massive Harbinger vessel, its form constantly shifting between states of existence, moved to intercept them. Its attack wasn't just physical. It sent waves of probability manipulation that threatened to unravel the quantum fields protecting the fleet. Barrier breach in sectors 7 through 12, Rodriguez reported, his hands flying over the engineering controls. The quantum cascade is starting to. He was cut off as reality flickered around them. For a moment, the bridge crew saw multiple versions of themselves, countless potential outcomes of the battle playing out simultaneously. The Harbingers weren't just attacking their ships, they were attacking causality itself. Reroute power to the primary quantum field, Chen ordered, her voice steadied despite the chaos. Prepare to execute Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega was a last resort strategy, one that would push their quantum technology beyond its theoretical limits. It had never been tested outside simulation, and even there, the results were uncertain. As the battle reached its crescendo, with ships being erased from existence and reality itself becoming increasingly unstable, Chen gave the order that would either save their galaxy or doom it completely. All ships, synchronize quantum fields to Defiant's frequency. Prepare to collapse all dimensional states on my mark. She took a deep breath, watching as the massive Harbinger command ship loomed before them. May whatever gods exist in all dimensions forgive us for what we're about to do to the fabric of reality. The combined fleet's quantum cores powered up for one final desperate gambit. The storm of war raged around them. But in that moment, every being in the fleet was united in a single purpose: survival at any cost. The universe held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's desperate plan would work, or if the Harbingers would add another galaxy to their endless harvest. Humanity's stand. Protocol Omega began with a whisper. Across the combined fleet, quantum cores pulsed in perfect synchronization, their fields merging into something that had never existed in this universe before. The Defiant led the charge, its enhanced systems acting as the focal point for what would either be salvation or destruction. Quantum synchronization at 98%, Dr. Santos reported, her voice tight with tension. Dimensional collapse cascading through all predicted vectors. The space around the fleet began to change. Reality itself seemed to condense, countless possible states of existence being forced into a single unified point. The Harbinger ships, masters of dimensional manipulation, suddenly found themselves being pulled into a singular state of being. They're attempting to compensate, Catal announced, his feathers bristling with static electricity from the quantum distortions. Their dimensional signatures are fragmenting. Captain Chen watched as the massive Harbinger command ship tried to shift between states, its impossible geometry fighting against the collapsing quantum field. They've never faced this before, she said. They've never had their victims fight back on their own level. The Defiant's quantum core screamed as it channeled more power than it was ever designed to handle. Commander Rodriguez's hands flew across his console, trying to maintain stability. Core temperature critical. The containment field is barely holding. Maintain course, Chen ordered. All ships, push your quantum fields to maximum. We need to trap them in this dimensional state before they can adapt. The battle that followed defied description in any single language. Ships fought across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. Weapons fire existed in quantum superposition until the moment of impact, and space itself became a fluid medium of possibility. But something was different this time. The Harbingers, used to overwhelming their victims with superior dimensional control, found themselves forced to fight in increasingly limited space. Their advantage was being stripped away, layer by quantum layer. "It's working," Santos called out, her eyes wide as she studied the sensor readings. "Their ships, they're being forced into normal spacetime. They can't maintain their dimensional superiority." The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Conventional weapons now able to target the Harbinger ships that had previously existed in multiple states. But the enemy was far from defeated. The command ship launched a desperate counterattack, sending waves of probability manipulation that threatened to shatter the quantum synchronization. Synchronization dropping. Rodriguez warned. 80%. 75. Chen's mind raced. They were so close, but the strain on their ships was becoming impossible to maintain. That's when she saw it, a pattern in the Harbinger's desperate attacks, something she recognized from 30 years of studying their behavior in the void. "They're afraid," she realized aloud. For the first time in their existence, they're experiencing fear. Dr. Santos analyzed their command ship's quantum signature. "Look for fluctuations in their dimensional stability." Santos worked quickly, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Got it. There's a resonance pattern in their core systems. If we can match it, amplify it, we can turn their own dimensional mastery against them." Chen finished. "All ships, prepare to modify your quantum fields. Transmitting new frequency patterns now." The combined fleet adjusted their attack, their quantum fields now pulsing in harmony with the Harbinger's own dimensional frequency. The effect was devastating. The enemy ships began to lose cohesion, their perfect control over reality becoming their greatest weakness. "Their command structure is collapsing," Cattol reported, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "The dimensional feedback is spreading through their entire fleet." The Harbinger command ship, its form now fluctuating wildly between states of existence, made one final attempt to escape. But the combined fleet had them trapped, their synchronized quantum fields creating a cage of stable space-time from which there was no escape. "All ships, execute final phase," Chen commanded. "Full power to quantum cores. Let's show them what happens when you threaten our galaxy." The Defiance quantum core reached full power, leading the combined fleet in one last, coordinated surge. The resulting quantum cascade tore through the Harbinger fleet like a dimensional tsunami. Ships that had harvested countless civilizations found themselves trapped in a singularity of probability. Their mastery over reality turned into a prison from which there was no escape. When the quantum distortions cleared, the Harbinger fleet was gone. Not destroyed in the conventional sense, but locked into a single quantum state, trapped in a bubble of space-time where they could never again threaten another civilization. The combined fleet, their ships battered but triumphant, held position around the newly created quantum anomaly. Inside the Defiance bridge, Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Status report," she ordered, though the victory was clear to all. "The Harbinger fleet has been completely neutralized," Santos confirmed. "Their quantum signatures are contained within the anomaly. They're trapped in their own harvest." The implications of their victory began to sink in. Humanity's desperate gamble, born from 30 years of preparation and executed through unprecedented cooperation with alien species, had succeeded. They had done what countless civilizations before them had failed to do. They had stopped the harvesters. Emergency channels lit up as celebrations broke out across the fleet. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now shared in a victory that would reshape the galaxy's future. The quantum technology that humanity had developed in secret would now become a foundation for new advances, new possibilities. "Captain," Cattol said, his voice carrying a note of profound respect, "the Council is requesting your presence. They're declaring this day a galactic holiday, the day the harvest ended." Chen looked around at her crew, human and alien working together, their differences forgotten in the face of extinction. "Tell them we'll be there," she replied. "But first, send a message to Earth. Tell them humanity kept its promise. We protected our galaxy, all of it, together." The Defiant turned toward Centauri Station, its quantum core humming with the power that had changed the course of history. Behind it, the combined fleet formed an honor guard, their ships still bearing the scars of battle that their crews united in triumph. The harvest had ended, and a new age of cooperation and discovery was about to begin. An age where humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face impossible odds with innovation and determination, had proven to be the galaxy's salvation.